بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. My dear students, this is the fourth lecture I made and posted here in our classroom. If you remember, in the previous lectures we were talking about clusters that involve stop plus stop sound, and I have explained the first type of this cluster. This type is the cluster that includes two stop sounds that are produced at two different places. That's just like k, t, p, t. K is a velar stop sound, while t is an alveolar stop sound. So we have two different places of articulation. The same is true for p and t. P is a bilabial stop sound, while t is an alveolar stop sound. In these cases, if you remember, we needed to make two closures, one for the first stop, another one for the second stop. But in both cases, we have only one release. Now we will talk about a second type of stop plus stop cluster, which are the clusters produced in the stop sounds are produced in the same place, not just like this one. We have a stop and another stop. These two stops are produced in the same place. Look at the p sound here and the p sound here. This is a cluster of a stop plus stop, and both consonants are bilabial. They are produced in the same place. Slip past. By the way, this example is found on page 69 in your textbooks. Okay, so how do we produce this cluster? How many closures and releases do we have here? Okay, first of all, we need to know that when we make the closure for the first p, we do it by what? If you remember, p is a bilabial sound. So when we want to make the closure for p, we need to press the lips together, okay, to make a bilabial sound. And while the first p sound, the first stop is being made, we need to prepare for the second stop, which is another bilabial stop. So what do we need to do here? All what we need to do is to keep our lips together for a long time. Okay, that's why we will give the closures for the two stops, but in one long closure. So in this case, we will have one long closure, okay, for the two p sounds. Okay. As for the release, we have only one release after the sound p. That's to say, we don't make any release after the first p sound. So we do not say slip past. No, we keep our lips together and say slip past, slip past. You can notice that the closure we make here is one closure, but it is longer than usual. Okay, we have similar examples on page 69, just like the word what time. So please think about the closures and the releases we have in this example. What time? Okay, think and tell me what you come up with. Now we have another type of cluster, final one, which involves a stop sound plus a nasal sound. Okay, in the first and the previous examples, we were dealing with stop sounds in which only oral sounds are involved. Okay, so the Cluster in what time is an oral one. The cluster in kata is oral, pata is oral, slip past is also oral. But what if we have a stop plus a nasal sound? If we take the example button, in which we have syllabic na, don't forget we don't have a vowel, so it is button, button without a schwa. It's not button, it's button. So here we have tana together in a cluster without any vowel between them. So you know, all of you, that ta is an oral sound while na is a nasal sound. So what do we do in this case? First of all, as usual, we need first to make the closure for the sound ta, which is an alveolar sound. So how do we make the closure? We simply raise the tip of the tongue to be in contact, in a complete contact with the alveolar ridge. While we are still pronouncing the sound ta, we mean the tongue tip is still in contact with the alveolar ridge, we prepare our organs of speech for the na sound. What kind of preparation we need to do here is to do what? Is to start lowering the soft palate, because you know that ta is an oral sound in which the soft palate is raised and the air only goes through the oral cavity, while in na sound, which is a nasal sound, the soft palate should be lowered so that the air can go out through the nasal cavity. In this case, the release we have is going to be a nasal release. It is what? It is a nasal release. Okay? Think of, before that, let's have a look at your textbook. You can see this is the situation when we have tana one after the other in a cluster. First of all, we make the closure for the ta sound, which is an alveolar sound, as we have just said. So the tip of the tongue is raised to be in complete contact, as you can see here, with the alveolar ridge. We keep this contact and start lowering the soft palate. This is the soft palate. We start lowering the soft palate so we can push the air outside from the nasal cavity. From here, this oral cavity is still closed by the tip of the tongue and the alveolar ridge. In this case, we will not have an oral explosion, we will have a nasal explosion. It means that the air is pushed out through the nasal cavity. This is what we mean by nasal explosion. I'm going to write it here. Nasal explosion. Okay? This is a very important expression. It's different from an oral explosion. Now, think of how the cluster dana is pronounced in the word hidden. Hidden. Again, don't forget there is no schwa here. We have a cluster of da, na. Thank you very much for listening and hope to see you again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.